Last night's episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live didn't just stir the pot, it was an inferno. What started as a standard political sit-down turned into one of the most charged confrontations in late-night history, shaking the room and setting social media ablaze. Under the hot lights, the crowd erupted with noise, cheers clashing with boos like thunder meeting lightning. Out walked Karoline Leavitt, youngest White House press secretary ever, radiating sharp control. Blonde hair styled to perfection, eyes like steel, and a red suit that screamed defiance. She wasn't there to play defense. She came for battle. Across from her, Jimmy Kimmel, ever the entertainer, grinned with his usual charm, ready to turn the night into a mix of satire and spectacle. The audience was instantly split. Chants for the president echoed from one side while the other burst into laughter at Kimmel's opening jabs. The camera caught Leavitt's calm, composed expression, cool and calculated. Kimmel, behind his desk, looked like a man ready to pounce, his black suit sharp, his demeanor sharper. The lights dimmed slightly as the music faded out. Kimmel welcomed everyone with his signature wit, throwing his first jab like a soft punch cloaked in charm. "Hope she brought a map to navigate my questions," he said, and the crowd howled. But Leavitt barely blinked. She stepped forward, shook his hand with confident force, and took her seat, legs crossed, never breaking eye contact. Kimmel leaned in. "What's it like being the face of the White House, or should I say, the cleanup crew for the president's tweet storms?" Laughter erupted again. Still, Leavitt kept her poise. "I'm proud, Jimmy. Proud to represent millions of Americans, not the ones twisting facts for punchlines." A hush fell. Even her critics in the crowd had to take a breath. Kimmel's smile flickered. Then he pushed again. "Don't you ever feel like your job is kind of like doing comedy?" She cocked her head slightly, eyes glittering. "No, Jimmy, I leave the comedy to you. I'm here to say what needs saying, not perform tricks for ratings." That drew real applause, stronger this time. Kimmel held up a hand to quiet the noise. His grin was intact, but tension peeked through his polished exterior. Leavitt sat like a warrior waiting for the next swing. Then came the pivot. "You say you represent Americans," Kimmel said, the smile still there but voice tightening. "But when prices go up, how do you explain that to struggling families?" The audience stilled. Whispered reactions buzzed as Leavitt calmly placed her hands in her lap and answered. "Rising prices are a global issue, not just America's. We're protecting jobs, reducing foreign dependence. Maybe ask about the millions who kept their jobs because of our actions. Or is that not funny enough for your show?" That landed. Her side of the crowd cheered again. Kimmel tried to snap back. "Oh, I love numbers, especially when they crash like the stock market." Laughter trickled in, but softer now. Leavitt leaned forward. "Market fluctuations are normal, Jimmy. But you know what's not normal? Spending entire shows twisting the truth instead of asking real questions." Boom. The room split wide open, clapping and booing in equal measure, noise spilling over like a dam breaking. Kimmel raised his hand, trying to reel it back in. Calm them, but his eyes betrayed a hint of unease. "Real questions, huh?" he shot back, his tone sharper. "Fine. How do you explain the president constantly making claims that are, let's say, hard to verify?" Leavitt smiled, a cold but confident grin. "Polite. That's a new word for you, isn't it?" she said, drawing laughs from a few audience members, this time at her wit. "I'm not here to play word games, Jimmy. The president says what he believes, and I clarify what needs clarifying. But if you want to talk about hard to verify, why not address how your show edits words to turn everything into a punchline?" The stage shook with applause, louder than ever, forcing Kimmel to pause, trying to regain his rhythm. The camera caught his face still smiling, but his lips tightened. Not giving him a chance to respond, Leavitt turned to the audience, her voice like a sword slicing through the air. "Folks, I know you came here for fun, But you deserve more than cheap jokes. You deserve to hear the truth about our country, about what we're doing, about what really matters." The crowd erupted. Many stood, chanting, "Karoline." Kimmel tried to cut in. "Hey, this is a comedy show, not a political forum." But his voice was drowned out by the roar. Leavitt looked straight at him, her gaze piercing. "If this is just comedy, why are you scared when I speak the truth?" Kimmel regained his composure, leaning closer, his tone now tinged with bitterness. "The truth? You talk about truth when the whole country sees you standing behind someone who's made everything a mess. Don't you get tired of covering for him every day?" The question landed like a bomb. The audience held its breath. Leavitt didn't blink, didn't waver, only smiled faintly. "Covering? I'm not covering anything, Jimmy. I'm standing up for the people you and your kind ignore. The workers, the families, the people who believe in this country. What about you? What do you stand for? Besides laughs and ratings?" The stage felt like it was on fire. The audience clapped fiercely, some shouting in support, shaking the studio. Kimmel tried to keep his smile, but his eyes showed clear discomfort. "You're good, Karoline," he said, his tone reluctant. "But if you're so confident, why not answer straight? Do you really believe the president is doing a good job? Or is that just your job talking?" Leavitt tilted her head, her eyes never leaving Kimmel, and answered instantly. "I believe in what we're doing, building a stronger America. What about you, Jimmy? Do you believe in what you say every night, or are you just reading a script for a paycheck?" The applause roared again, like thunder, drowning out Kimmel as he tried to interject. The camera zoomed in on Leavitt's face. No trace of fear, only absolute confidence. Kimmel's eyes began to waver. All right, he said, voice straining to stay cheerful. "You want to play? Let's see how you handle this." He signaled his team. The large screen behind lit up, ready to play a clip from one of Leavitt's White House press briefings. But Leavitt didn't flinch. She sat there, her gaze icy like a warrior poised for the next strike. The screen played footage of her at the podium, slightly hesitant while addressing the impact of tariffs, cleverly edited to highlight a moment of unease. A reporter in the clip smirked. The video froze, just as Leavitt seemed at a loss for words. The audience erupted in laughter, spurred on by Kimmel, who raised his hand like a gladiator landing a critical blow. "Karoline, is this the truth you're talking about?" he asked, his tone triumphant. "Looks like you were scrambling when a reporter asked about prices spiking 15% because of the president's tariffs." Karoline Leavitt sat upright, her eyes sharp as a blade, locking onto Kimmel like he'd just walked into her trap. "That's disappointing, Jimmy," she replied, her voice slow but cutting, resonating through the studio. "You had to dig for hours to find 5 seconds of me pausing, but you didn't dare show the other 10 minutes of that briefing where I gave the numbers. Tariffs created 2.3 million manufacturing jobs last year, per to the Department of Labor's report. Want me to repeat that figure?" A section of the audience exploded in applause, cheers drowning out the scattered laughter. Kimmel raised an eyebrow, his smile faltering, but he pressed on. "Jobs? You know Americans are paying 20% more for imported goods because of that policy. Is that your truth, too?" Leavitt smiled that same cold, confident grin. "You love numbers." "Don't you?" she said, her voice slicing like a knife. "Let's talk about this one. Before tariffs, we imported 60% of our steel from China, costing $500,000 American steel jobs between 2000 and 2015, according to the International Economic Institute. Now, thanks to our policies, domestic steel production is up 25%. That's why I'm here, Jimmy, to defend the workers you never mention in your jokes." The studio shook with applause so strong Kimmel had to raise a hand to quiet the crowd. The camera panned to his face. His smile held, but his grip on the pen tightened, his eyes betraying a flicker of panic. He tried to regain control, his tone now laced with bitterness. You're good with numbers, Karoline. But you can't deny your administration is making a mess of things. Do you ever wonder which side you're on when the world laughs at what the president says? The question landed like a bomb. The audience held its breath. Leavitt didn't blink. Her gaze was steady, piercing. The world laughed at us when we lost millions of jobs to terrible trade deals. I stand with the Americans who've been forgotten. The workers in Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Who do you stand with, Jimmy? Besides the audience laughing at your script? The crowd erupted. Chants of Karoline echoed through the studio, many rising to their feet to cheer. Kimmel tried to interject. This is a show, not a campaign rally. But his voice was lost in the noise. Leavitt turned to the audience, her voice rising, powerful like a call to arms. Folks, I know you came, here for fun, but you deserve more than cheap jokes. You deserve to know about the people fighting to bring jobs back, to secure our borders, to build a stronger America. That's the truth I bring here, no matter how he tries to twist it. The applause roared like thunder, overwhelming Kimmel's attempts to shift the mood. He leaned in, his voice now tinged with desperation. Truth. You call defending someone who constantly makes false claims truth. Don't you get tired of performing every day? Leavitt tilted her head, her smile defiant. Performing? I face dozens of reporters daily, answering the toughest questions, with no script, no editing team to save me, unlike you. What about you, Jimmy? Are you tired of playing the smart guy every night, or is that just the job? Laughter, this time, aimed at Kimmel, swept through the room. He paused, thrown off, struggling to catch his breath. Leavitt didn't let up. Her voice landed like a final sword strike. You want to talk about falsehoods? Let's talk about how you edit words, twist the truth, make everything a joke. You don't care about Americans, you care about ratings. I'm here to defend the people you ignore, and I won't let you turn that into a punchline. Kimmel tried. Again. You're turning my show into a political forum, Karoline. No, Jimmy, she cut in, eyes blazing. I'm turning it into a place where the truth is spoken, and if that scares you, maybe you should change careers. The stage felt ablaze. The audience stood in greater numbers, cheers rolling in like a tidal wave, sweeping away Kimmel's every attempt to take back control. Leavitt turned to them once more, her voice clear and commanding. Don't let people like him decide what you think. You're smarter than that. You're stronger than that. And we, the people working for you, won't stop, no matter how many jokes we face. The applause became a storm. Many were standing, chanting her name, while Kimmel sat still, his trademark smile now only a pale echo. He tried to salvage the moment. Wow, Karoline, you sure know how to heat up the stage. But his voice was lost in the roar. Leavitt looked at him, her gaze calm but razor-sharp. I'm not done yet, Jimmy, she said, soft but piercing. But I'll give you a chance to rethink before we go on. The camera zoomed in on her face. No fear, only radiant confidence. Kimmel raised a hand, trying to quiet the crowd. We'll be back after the break, he said, forcing a lightness into his voice, but the studio still shook with cheers for Karoline. When they returned from commercial, the energy hadn't waned. The thunderous applause continued, filling the room like a tide that wouldn't recede. Karoline Leavitt sat steady, her red suit glowing under the lights like an unquenchable flame. Kimmel, though still smiling, clutched the edge of the desk, his hands tight, his eyes flickering as he tried to recapture the moment. But the crowd was with her now. They stood, chanting her name, the spotlight fixed squarely on her. She looked unshaken, like a warrior who knew she'd won, but was still ready for more. Kimmel leaned forward, his tone now a mix of desperation and bitterness. Karoline, you talk about truth, but the whole country sees you standing behind someone who's thrown the economy into chaos. Gas prices up 30%, inflation hitting 8% in the past year, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You call that building? The question landed like a final arrow aimed at Leavitt, meant to pierce her composure. The audience held its breath, a few boos mixing with scattered applause, all waiting for her response. Leavitt didn't flinch. She smiled, a confident, razor-sharp grin, and shot back, "Jimmy, you love stats when they suit you, don't you? Gas prices are a global issue. Did you know crude oil prices spiked 40% due to Middle East conflicts?" Her voice was clear, cutting. "But what you won't say is that we've boosted domestic oil production by 15%, creating 300,000 new jobs, per the Department of Energy. I call that building. What do you call it when you just sit here whining?" The stage erupted, applause like a tidal wave, many audience members rising to their feet, shouting in support. Kimmel tried to regain control. "Building? You're defending someone who's made us a laughingstock worldwide." Leavitt didn't let him finish. Her voice rose above his, unwavering. "Laughingstock? The world laughed at us when we lost millions of jobs to failed policies of the past. I'm here to defend the Americans you ignore, the miners in West Virginia, the factory workers in Indiana. Have you ever mentioned them in your jokes? Or do you just laugh at what you don't understand?" Cheers shook the studio walls. Kimmel, visibly cornered now, took one last shot. "Karoline, you can say whatever you want, but the country sees you standing behind someone who can't keep promises. Don't you get tired of playing spokesperson for a failure?" It hit like a bomb. Silence fell. Every eye was on Leavitt. She rose slowly, her presence calm but commanding, her gaze locked onto Kimmel's like a war cry made of steel. "Failure," she said, her voice deep and thunderous. "We've brought millions of jobs back, lowered unemployment to 3.5%, the lowest in 50 years, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Failure is you sitting here throwing stones at people fighting for this country just to get a few cheap laughs." The audience erupted. Applause roared. Some stood, others chanted her name. Leavitt turned to the crowd, eyes blazing, her voice rising like a rallying cry. "You deserve to know about the people working day and night to build this country, not to hear lies wrapped in laughter. I'm here for you, and I won't let anyone, not even you, Jimmy, stop that." The cheers drowned everything out. But Leavitt didn't linger. She calmly removed her mic, not in anger but in authority. "I don't need your stage to speak the truth," she said, her eyes locked on Kimmel's, sharp as steel. "I came here to represent Americans, but you just want a circus. Thanks, Jimmy, but I'm done." She turned to the crowd, raising her hand like a queen addressing her people. "Don't let people like him decide what you think. Believe in the truth." Applause and cheers surged again, louder, more unified. Some were on their feet, chanting, "Karoline," like a battle cry. Kimmel, grasping for control, tried a joke. "Wow, looks like she didn't like my stage lights." But the laughter was thin, scattered, and did nothing to mask his loss of command. Leavitt walked off stage, her stride steady, head high. The lights followed her like a crown. Cameras captured every second, an exit that felt like history. The studio buzzed with shouting, cheers, arguments, and rising chants. Phones went up, recording her silhouette as she left, her red suit glowing like an unextinguishable flame. Behind his desk, Kimmel managed a strange, tight smile, his eyes betraying the chaos beneath. "Well, that was an interesting night," he said, trying to add humor, but the sparse response told the truth. The camera panned over stunned faces, phones still raised, the crowd buzzing. Kimmel gripped his hands tightly as if trying to hold onto control, slipping fast. "We'll be back after the break," he said, but no one listened. Within minutes of Leavitt's exit, social media lit up like a fuse. Twitter exploded with hashtags. Leavitt Rules was already trending. Kimmel was schooled in real time, and the internet wasted no time making it known. Thousands of posts were flying out by the second. One user wrote, "Karoline Leavitt just turned Jimmy Kimmel into a spectator on his own show. Queen." While sharing a clip of her removing her mic. That video alone racked up over 2 million views in 10 minutes on TikTok. Soon, slow-motion videos of her walking off with an icy gaze set to triumphant Hollywood-style music spread like wildfire. A Gen Z user captioned it perfectly. "She didn't just win, she dominated," punctuated with a fire emoji, pulling in tens of thousands of likes. Even Instagram, typically filled with brunch and fashion posts, got flooded with tributes to Leavitt with captions like, "This is how you stand up to biased media." Kimmel's supporters tried to clap back, but their voices got drowned out almost immediately. One account wrote, "Leavitt just talked without answering anything," but that was met with hundreds of replies like, "She answered with truth, Kimmel only had jokes." Reddit lit up too. A thread on Our Politics hit over 10,000 comments calling the moment the TV battle of the decade. A top comment read, "Leavitt didn't just beat Kimmel, she exposed how entertainment media twists truth for profit." Conservatives on social media hailed her as a beacon of honesty. Even those who didn't support Trump admitted she gave Kimmel a lesson. The mainstream media jumped on it fast. Fox News ran with it, posting, "Karoline Leavitt annihilates Jimmy. Kimmel on his own turf," quoting her line about forgotten Americans like it was a campaign slogan. Newsmax chimed in too, calling her the winner in bold caps. Truth triumphs. They cited Leavitt's economic stats, 3.5% unemployment, the lowest in half a century, as evidence. On the other hand, outlets like CNN tried to downplay it. They admitted she showed strength but claimed she dodged questions about Trump's record. Still, they had to acknowledge she turned Kimmel's stage into her own podium. Over on YouTube, reaction videos exploded. A conservative content creator with over 1 million subscribers posted a deep dive titled, "Leavitt didn't just win, she changed late night forever." The video hit 500,000 views within hours. Even influencers who usually stay out of politics weighed in. "I didn't know who she was," one said, "but Leavitt just made me want to learn more about White House policy." Gen Z, often called apathetic, followed her en masse, boosting her follower count by over 200,000 overnight. Inside the studio, chaos lingered. As the show cut to commercial, the audience kept arguing. Phones were up everywhere, posting live. Clips on Instagram stories with captions like, "I just witnessed history." Even those who didn't agree with her quietly admitted to friends, "She's tough." One older audience member leaned over and whispered, "It's been a while since I saw someone speak so boldly on TV." Studio staff had to intervene, asking people to sit down, but cheers still erupted every time Leavitt's name came up. Backstage, the panic was palpable. A producer yelled into a headset, "We just let her steal the show." Another whispered, "Ratings will be high, but the cost, it's too steep." Kimmel sat in his host chair, staring at the monitor, face blank. He knew he'd just been taken down, not by a political veteran, but by a young woman with truth and confidence on her side. Meanwhile, Leavitt exited the studio like a victor. She didn't look back, but her expression said everything. She'd turned an entertainment stage into a battlefield and walked away with an invisible crown. Within hours, Karoline Leavitt wasn't just trending, she was a national moment. Not just because she beat Jimmy Kimmel, but because she turned a late-night interview into something much bigger, a call for truth, a spark of conviction in a media-saturated world. The next night, the stage lights were on again, but the mood in the studio had clearly shifted. Kimmel walked out with his usual smile, but his eyes told a different story. The audience clapped, though less enthusiastically, murmuring about Karoline and the night before. He tried to shake it off with a joke. "Hey everyone, tonight we'll keep it lighter, because I'm not sure I can handle another fight." The audience laughed, but not loud enough to erase what had happened. Social media was still burning. The hashtag #SheDidYouLeavittRules was everywhere. The clip of her mic drop moment had already passed 10 million views on YouTube. Analysts were calling him the first late-night host to get outplayed by a press secretary. Kimmel took a breath, looked into the camera, and began again, this time a little less sure of himself. Dropping rarely serious, last night I had, let's call it, a lively conversation with Karoline Leavitt. I went too far, and I want to say I respect her strength. She's a formidable opponent. The audience clapped sparsely, but the mood was heavy. Kimmel's apology, though carefully scripted, felt reluctant to many, a belated attempt to salvage his image. On Twitter, a user wrote, "Kimmel apologizing too late. Leavitt won by knockout." The post quickly racked up 50,000 likes, reflecting the crowd's sentiment. Kimmel had fallen. Meanwhile, at the White House, Karoline Leavitt stepped up to the press briefing podium with more confidence than ever. Her navy suit exuded calm, but her eyes still burned with the fire from the night before. The reporters, usually sharp and aggressive, seemed more cautious, as if they too sensed her power after the clash with Kimmel. One asked, "Miss Leavitt, about your showdown with Jimmy Kimmel, do you regret walking off the stage?" Leavitt smiled, her gaze steady and piercing. "Regret? I went there to speak the truth, and I did. I walked off because I don't need stage lights to prove it." The briefing room echoed with rare applause from a few reporters, an unusual occurrence in that typically cold space. Her response spread like wildfire. Fox News ran the headline, "Leavitt fires back at Kimmel from White House. Truth doesn't need a stage," quoting her as a symbol of honesty. A Newsmax article praised her. In 24 hours, she turned a comedian into a lesson for all of Hollywood. Even neutral outlets like USA Today had to admit, Leavitt didn't just beat Kimmel, she redefined how a politician confronts entertainment media. On social media, her Twitter account gained 300,000 followers. Thousands of comments poured in, especially from young people. "You're the role model I want to follow, and thank you for speaking for us." Leavitt, rarely active online, posted a single tweet. "Thank you for listening to the truth." The post garnered over 1 million engagements, cementing her status as a rising star. Meanwhile, Kimmel faced heavy fallout. The show's ratings the next night dropped 10%, according to preliminary Nielsen data, as some viewers turned away, calling him a failed bully. Sponsors whispered about pulling ads, fearing damage to the show's image. Backstage, Kimmel's team held an emergency meeting, debating how to handle the crisis. One producer suggested, "No more politicians, too risky." But Kimmel, though outwardly calm, couldn't hide his frustration. An insider revealed he privately told a colleague, "I didn't expect her to be that tough." His apology, though, praised by loyal fans, wasn't enough to quell the wave of criticism. A Variety analysis wrote, "Kimmel wanted a viral moment, but Leavitt took it from him." Leavitt appeared on a Fox News interview that same evening, reinforcing her message. "We're working for Americans, the workers, the families, the people ignored by entertainment media." The quote was cited everywhere, from articles to TikTok videos, turning Leavitt into a symbol of courage. A college student posted a video analysis. "Leavitt doesn't just talk, she acts. She makes me want to get into politics." The video hit 200,000 views, showing her growing influence on younger generations. At the White House, Leavitt's colleagues, from advisors to staff, hailed her as the administration's sharpest weapon. A senior advisor, quoted anonymously, said, "She didn't just beat Kimmel, she gave the media a lesson." Leavitt, though busy with work, remained composed. When a reporter asked what she thought of Kimmel's apology, she replied curtly, "I don't need an apology. The truth spoke for me." The line spread instantly, printed on T-shirts and memes, solidifying her image as an unbeatable warrior. While Kimmel struggled to regain his footing, Leavitt rose as a political star. She didn't just win on Kimmel's stage, she turned it into a launchpad, forcing the nation to take notice. She became a symbol for those who believe truth can outshine laughter, that courage can defeat sarcasm. Just days after the historic showdown, her name transcended the role of White House press secretary. becoming a symbol of courage and truth in a world full of noise and satire. She didn't just defeat Jimmy Kimmel on his own stage, she rewrote the rules, proving that a young woman with fierce conviction could make an entire media industry rethink itself. The media remained obsessed with Leavitt. Fox News called her an unquenchable fire, quoting her line about forgotten Americans as a rallying cry for a new generation. A Wall Street Journal analysis wrote, "Karoline Leavitt didn't just beat Kimmel, she exposed the rift. Between entertainment media and reality, we're forced to ask, what are we laughing at?" Even left-leaning outlets like MSNBC, though initially reluctant, admitted that Leavitt turned a comedy show into a soapbox, a feat few could pull off. She became the subject of college lectures where students analyzed how she used language and confidence to shape public opinion. Social media couldn't stop talking about her. The hashtag #RewatchYouLeavittRules trended on Twitter for an entire week with over 5 million related posts. One TikTok video, where a young woman mimicked Leavitt's walk and voice as she removed her mic, hit 3 million views with the caption, "Learn to stand up like Karoline." Memes of Leavitt flooded Instagram, images of her staring down Kimmel, with an icy gaze, or quotes like, "Truth doesn't need a stage," printed on mugs and t-shirts. One user wrote, "Leavitt is proof you don't need to shout to be heard, you just need to speak right." That post alone drew 100,000 likes, reflecting her influence across generations. In a Newsmax interview, Leavitt explained, "I didn't fight Kimmel for personal reasons. I fought for the Americans who don't have a voice on late-night TV." That line was quoted everywhere and became a banner for those who felt ignored by mainstream media. She appeared on conservative podcasts where listeners called her the Queen of Truth, and even some neutral shows invited her to discuss the role of media. After hearing her speak, one college student tweeted, "I used to think politics was dirty, but she makes me want to get involved." That post garnered 50,000 engagements, showing how she inspired a new generation. Leavitt's legacy wasn't just in defeating Kimmel, but in how she reshaped the national conversation. Other late-night hosts like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Fallon reportedly began hesitating to invite political guests, fearing another Kimmel-style disaster. An Atlantic piece summed it up. Leavitt proved entertainment media isn't invincible. One person with truth in hand can topple a comedy empire. She became a symbol for young women, with hundreds of Instagram posts from girls writing things like, "Karoline made me believe I can stand up too." Karoline Leavitt was more than a press secretary. She was a warrior who turned a TV moment into a call for truth and courage. In a world full of noise, she stood tall as a flag of truth, leaving a legacy stronger than any laughter and lasting as long as the faith she brought to millions. The showdown between Karoline Leavitt and Jimmy Kimmel on Jimmy Kimmel Live is a powerful reflection of the polarization and media dynamics in modern American society, where truth often gets overshadowed by drama or satire. In today's landscape, where social media and television shape public perception, Leavitt's confident stance, backed with facts like 2.3 million manufacturing jobs or a 3.5% unemployment rate, showed the power of preparation and belief in one's values. She didn't just challenge a comedian, she revealed how entertainment media can manipulate truth, as when Kimmel edited her press briefing to make her appear flustered. Her bold act of removing her mic and declaring, "I don't need this stage to speak the truth," embodied the American spirit, standing firm for your beliefs even in a hostile crowd. In an era where debates on TV or online can easily spiral into emotional shouting matches, Leavitt offers a model. Hold your ground with truth and dignity. Prepare thoroughly. Use facts to push back. Stay calm under attack. And when the moment calls for it, remove the mic, walk away from pointless arguments, and protect your values. Her story reminds us that in a noisy world, truth and dignity are the real forces for change.